ForInstantly.com. Recently got a question from Elite FTS teammate Christian Anto. It was through a text message, and he was asking me about box squatting. So we went back and forth a little bit, and he was like, I was watching some box squatting videos from people at Westside Barbell, and how they were letting their low back relax on the box, and he thought that you're supposed to stay tight on the box. Let me first say that Louis has definitely popularized the box squat as well as all the Westside Barbell lifters. That's what they're known for in terms of squatting. And there's nothing wrong with the box squat. It works for raw equipped. It's just a matter of application and using it for your desired needs and training. So to get to Christian's question, what he was essentially seeing was when he was watching these lifters squat, when they were on their way down, we're basically watching them take their squat down to their box, and then once they hit the box, they were basically relaxing and coming up. So they basically went down here, where generally in your box squat, you're still going to do all the same mechanics, but you're going to stay incredibly tight and then explode up. That's what Christian was basically seeing the difference between. I think what's important is that what Louis emphasized was letting the hip flexors relax when you hit the box, not letting your torso and your trunk stability and low back become compromised. So maybe what we're seeing in the videos are just the lifters being lazy. That's not harping on Westside Barbell or the lifters there by any means, but those guys train incredibly hard and are after each other, whether it's in terms of weight or speed. So they very well could just be trying to move the weight explosively as possible, and some coaching cues are letting them fall off. Anyone that's been in Westside knows that it's a very tough training environment. It's definitely not somebody being super nitpicky on little things, unless if they know that it's something that's really going to be detrimental. Could that be? Yes. But, ideally what you're looking for, regardless of how you box squat, is again that good controlled manner on the way down, staying tight but still letting the hip flexors relax. So when you're on your way down, you're going down. Notice that my hip flexors have to relax. You notice how I didn't go from here to here. My hip flexors have to relax to let me to sit completely vertical on the box. If I'm leaned forward, then my hip flexors are now engaged. I can actually feel my hip flexors be tight, where if I'm here, there's a little bit of relaxation. So if you also think about a 90-90 hip lift, which Casey Williams and Danny Overcash have been doing a really good series on. It was over on Elite FTS. When you're in that 90-90 hip position, those hamstrings are engaged, the hip flexors relax. Essentially, we're doing the same thing. Your hamstrings are essentially engaged as well as your hips. Your hip flexors have to relax to get to this 90 position. You can't have them, as soon as they start to flex, that brings me forward off the box. So essentially, that's what Louis was wanting, was the relaxation of the hip flexors, so when you go to explode off the box and leave with your chest, Dave has also described it really well as like a hamstring curl off the box. It's there. So what you don't want to do is go down and actually do this. That's going to defeat the purpose. One, you're gaining momentum, and two, you're going to have that lumbar flexion that's going to put your discs at a good increased chance of injury, especially long term if you're using accommodating resistance, especially bands with the overspeed eccentrics. So just remember, when you're actually on the way down, regardless of what you're using box squatting for, that you're controlling the eccentric, you're not plopping to the box, you're staying tight, but the hip flexors are still relaxing to let the hip come under a little bit. You're not wanting your hip to completely shut off, you're just wanting this hip flexors to get a brief relaxation and then explode off the box. So again, down, minor relaxation, go. Not down there. There's a complete difference. If you could actually feel my hips and my glutes and my low back, if you were here in person, you would be able to easily tell the difference. Hopefully it's visually different from a front view rather than a side. Again, still good and tall, hips back under control, and go. Not here. So hopefully that clears things up. Whether you're raw or equipped, I don't think that's really going to matter in the mechanics of how you're doing it. Box squatting is the same regardless. The only thing you're going to be changing with is likely stance, because an equipped lifter is probably going to be squatting a little wider, and a raw lifter is probably going to be squatting a little more narrow. But regardless of where your stance is, you still should be able to sit back good and under control, let those hip flexors relax, and come up strong off the box. That shouldn't be an issue regardless of how you're doing it. And even shoes, people are going to say, oh, you can't box squat in weightlifting shoes. Yes, you can. I did it for years. There's nothing wrong with it. Your knees are not going to track forward. If you're looking to get specific, you're probably going to want to stay in those shoes, but at the same time, you might also get some benefit using a cycle without them, forcing your hamstrings and your glutes to work and activate a little bit harder from having to sit back harder, where the weightlifting shoes are going to let you sit down a little bit more. So, Christian, hopefully that answered your question and makes a little bit more sense. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comment section below. And again, I want to reiterate this. This is not a stab at Westside or Louis or any of the box wars. That's anyone that knows how I train. That's where I get most of my methodology and principles from. And I've just changed how those are used based upon my own training philosophy. And I do know what Christian's talking about, because I see it all the time. People posting box squat videos through social media, or even just watching some of the people at Westside. They were getting, I think the best way to put it is lackadaisical in their technique for the box squat. That has nothing to do whether they're strong, whether they've got gear on or whether they're raw. It's just a matter of being safe and getting the box squat to implement and carry over to your training needs. So hopefully that answers all your questions. Like I said, if you got any questions, leave in the comment sections below.